Welcome to drboystv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. And you know what? I just finished a panel, and it's one of our intellectual chocolate panels. We do intellectual chocolate panels about 4 or 5 days a week at 8 o'clock Eastern every night. So if you like to hear Black people talking about things in a way that you don't hear on mainstream media, then you should definitely subscribe at drboystv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. So let me come in here. I came back in because we just had the panel, and the panel is finished, and I let the panelists say what they had to say. But I kind of thought I would come back in and make some kind of closing thoughts on this. Give me a yes or no in the chat. Give me a yes or no if you saw this whole story with this football coach. You had a football coach down in Georgia, a guy named Jarrell something. I don't have his whole name in front of me. But anyway, this football coach decides that he wants to beat up on 9-year-old kids. I don't know if you saw that, but this coach, let me see. I think his name. Let me see if his name's up on TMZ. Let's see, Jarrell Williams. He also works with the sheriff's department, which is actually kind of crazy that he works at the sheriff's department. But it's not crazy when you think about it. You can imagine a guy that works in a detention center who feels okay, committing violence against children. Nobody's going to really hold him accountable. Nobody's going to say anything. Let me just say this. Long story short, with what this guy did, give me a yes or no. I personally think that what he did was pretty much inexcusable. I don't know if y'all saw the video or not, but give me a yes or no in the chat if we can at least be on the same page with that. I thought what he did was inexcusable. Give me a yes or no if you agree with me. I'd be curious to know if any of you feel that there was an excuse for what he did. I don't think that there was. I think that it was too much. It was ridiculous. It was way, way over the top. And so, okay, I see yeses. Good. I hope we're in the same place. So somebody says, have you ever played football? Yes, I have. That leads to the second point, right? When I first heard about the incident, I withheld any sort of a judgment because I played football. I also believe in, I believe that life is different for boys than it is for girls. I believe that there are things that can happen. I believe that there are things that can happen that, mothers won't understand. I remember when I was a track coach in high, I coached kids from age 6 to age 17. And it was back in Louisville, Kentucky, my hometown. And I remember that that we hated it when the mothers would come to practice, because some of the mothers, we didn't hate all the mothers being there, but there were some mothers who were just overprotective. There were some mothers who didn't feel like their baby needed to endure any ounce of discomfort. They would just start and the thing is, if you read in biology books, there's a connection where when mothers hear their babies cry, it naturally ignites an instinct out of them. They cannot ignore the cries of their babies a lot of times. And so the mothers would come in and we'd be running the kids. Like we'd run them pretty hard to get them ready because they had to train well in order to be prepared for the competition. And their mothers will pull them off the track. No, he's tired. I decided to let him rest a little bit longer. Well, in those situations, we would tell the mothers, like, we need you to just take your child home. Either you leave or both of y'all leave. But you cannot stay. You must go. And the reason we did that is because they didn't always know the difference between tough training and abuse. Right? They would think everything was abuse. Anytime their child said, "Mommy, I'm tired," right? The next thing you know, she's sitting there with the arm around the little girl, giving her water, and I wasn't a fan of that, right? Because I wanted to win, right? I wanted our kids to be ready. I didn't want them to be crying to me after they get their butts kicked because they haven't been prepared. And so it's like a balance. Now, in this particular case, I was looking for that. I was like, okay, is there anything in here that can be justified? Is there anything in here that defines a balance? Because football is a violent sport. I don't feel sorry for a kid that gets hit, honestly, in that particular context, because if you've ever played football, you're going to get hit. You're going to be abused all the time. There are people out there that could break your leg, bust your head, break your arm, whatever, right? Like, so stop with we got to get past this whole idea that somehow that this irreversible trauma and also, no, it's football, man. Seriously, like football, you get your block knocked off. And it is what it is, right? It ain't, because so the issue is not so much that the kid got hit that day. Right? That is bad. It wasn't so much that he got hit. It was really who was hitting him and why, right? Getting hit at that same capacity on the football field could happen on every play. If you're the running back, every play, somebody's hitting you in the head just like that. Or you smack it into somebody every play, right? Getting off the field, though, and getting smacked twice by your coach for no reason and then pushed down, That's a problem because number one, you're off the field. It shouldn't be happening off the field. Number two, that's not your parent. And even if they were your parent, it would still be unacceptable. Number three, you're talking about a grown man bullying a little boy, right? A grown man should not be bullying 9-year-olds, right? That's not appropriate. Even if he were trying to do it to a grown man, like an NFL player, he'd probably get broken in half. So I think that's important when you look at situations like this to say, okay, this bothers me. Why does it bother me? And what's really going on here that allows us to say, okay, what specific pieces of this are problematic and what would have been, just enough or too much. So I think that if he had pushed him in the chest, like, what's wrong with you? Get up. You need to try harder. I would have had no problem with that at all. I think that and also if the kid was say 14 or 15, I wouldn't have had a big problem with it. So if he were older and the physical side were less aggressive, I could live with both of that. I think the fact that he was 9 and the fact that the assault was so dramatic is really what threw it over the top. And it does justify sending him to jail or charging him with assault. Now, here's another factor that a lot of people don't talk about. A lot of people don't bring this up. When you think about that whole situation with the coach and the little kid, you gotta, it's her name's spelled like Grandjean, but I always say it wrong. But Ro, she was on our panel tonight. Ro made a good point. I wanted to hear from a woman's perspective too, because I think women should be heard on all issues that matter. And one thing Ro brought up that I thought was really true is she said, "Where were the fathers? This child did not have a father, and or not. Sorry, maybe he did have a father, but if he had a father, then his father could not have been there. His father, and there was no man, because if he had a father that was worth 2 nickels, that coach would have been getting tackled right at that moment. That coach would have been confronted at that moment, right? It would have been no like, somebody needs to help this poor child. No, his father would have been there straightening that whole situation out. I can't imagine, even with my little brother, my little brother was that age. If you smack my little brother, like, I literally instinctually would have jumped up and I could just visualize myself diving into his neck and grabbing his neck and punching him in the head. Like I can physically imagine exactly how I would attack this man if he were to ever smack my little brother like that. But he would also be getting beat up by my dad, right? So men would not allow a child to go through something like that ever. So his daddy wasn't there. He didn't have an older brother. He had no male authority figure there that was a mentor or a protector to be there. And that's why, for example, one of the key conclusions of the panel tonight was you got to raise your own damn kids. Like, black men out here, seriously, like if you got kids, do everything you can to be there when they're going through things so that you can actually be a participant in whatever that process is. You should not have children and then let the kids just be out there, because then bad things happen. Now, he says, "Doc, you ain't a fighter." Well, I dare you to fuck with me, and then you'll find out what kind of fighter I am. Now, here's the thing. So the guy looks like he's going to go to jail, which I think is appropriate. He needs to be punished. I saw his apology. His apology was pretty lame. His apology wasn't. It wasn't on any level something that made me think he was remorseful. He wasn't remorseful. He was kind of like, well, the mama forgave me, so y'all need to back up and stop talking about me. Y'all need to leave me alone. Like it was just a guy who's trying to be, trying to hold out or whatever, because he didn't want to take accountability. That was a very bad look for him. His behavior was clearly out of control. Also, another thought that I had is I hate this idea. It drives me crazy when I see grown men who are living out their childhood fantasies, like all the things you couldn't accomplish in high school as a football player. You're taking this out with little 9-year-olds. Like you're trying to live your high school fantasy from 30 years ago through a bunch of 9-year-olds. And obviously grown men like super serious about Pee-wee football. And I think that I would encourage you to at least remember that, these are children and this is a game. And one of the things I think that we have to challenge ourselves as black men is to understand the difference between boys' games and the world of grown men, right? In the world of grown men, you're playing a bigger game. The bigger game is the game against white supremacy. The bigger game is the game of global economic domination, right? The bigger game happens in the real world, in the streets, and when it comes to like providing for your family and all that. Football and basketball are games you played when you are a child. So when you get past the age of 18, it's time for you to transition from the children's game to the grown-ups game. Only a few men play a child's game as adults, and these are professional football players. The other guys need to say, you know what, that's a game, and that's something I'll watch football on Sundays. I can probably talk to you about, like I can sit and I love talking to my friends about why the Dallas Cowboys suck so bad, why the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the worst, were up until last week one of the worst undefeated teams in NFL history. I could talk to you about why I think Tom Brady and the Buccaneers are going to do some good things in the playoffs if they can get there. I could tell you a lot of things, but believe me, after I finish having the children's conversation, I go to the grown man conversation. The grown man conversation is the one that involves me and my family and succeeding in this world as a black man. Right. So I think that when you have these guys that get so serious about Pee Wee League football, I think we should question that a little bit. It doesn't mean it's not a diss. It's not me saying, oh, something's wrong with you. It's just me saying that, you have to understand you live in a world where the white man wants you to stay a child. Malcolm X used to say that. He said that America wants the black man to remain either a little boy or a little girl. Right. And so a lot of times we have a lot of grown men who really are just children in grown men's bodies. And they carry themselves as children. They don't have the things that a man has, like discipline and commitment to an objective, right? The ability to provide and protect. And so the thing about masculinity, I find also, is that that's something you really have to claim. That's something you have to take. Like, no one really gives you your masculinity. There are people that might protect it and nurture it for you if you're lucky, right? But nobody really gives it to you. You kind of have to take it. So that part of me also is part of what gives me a little bit of tolerance for difficult situations. So a lot of situations that people go through that they may define to be abusive or traumatic, which they might be, I balance that because I know that most of the things that I have now today that make me strong actually came as the result of situations that some would call abusive, some would call traumatic, some would call just terrible. Like, so for example, my ability to understand economics and wealth at a high level came from the fact that I was so broke that it was painful. You ever been so broke that it really hurt? Like it really mentally really hurt you? Like, that was traumatic, but that trauma elevated me, right? So sometimes trauma flipped in the proper way can actually lead you to extensive possibilities. The only way you can ever get to the point where you can reach up to heaven is sometimes you got to go to the depths of hell. Most people who can reach heaven because they've gone through the depths of hell. Like Michael Jordan would never have been the greatest basketball player, arguably the greatest in the history of the NBA, if he had never gone through the pain of getting cut from the 8th grade team and having people make fun of him for being too dark and dealing with all the other nonsense he dealt with as a kid in North Carolina. So it was that pain that literally drove him to the highest heights of success. But now Michael probably needs some therapy so that trauma doesn't overwhelm him as he's dealing with the success, right? So this is my 2 cents. This is Uncle Boyce talking, just kind of breaking stuff down. Feel free to leave your comments. Let me know what you think. And I enjoyed the panel today. And I just thought I would give like a quick recap because I had some stuff I wanted to say. I didn't want to talk too much during the panel, but I said, you know what, let me just go live real quick and give the Uncle Boyce perspective on this. So I hope that this was helpful. And I agree with you. And Daryl says I wasn't offended by it. It's football. Well, I was offended by it because I don't think a grown man needs to do that. But I don't think that it's like the kid has just been traumatized beyond belief, because anybody who's ever played football knows that you get hit harder than that on every other play. Like, so it wasn't the magnitude of the hit. It was who did it and why, and the fact that a grown-ass man should not be bullying a 9-year-old. That's not appropriate behavior. It's the psychological effect of what happened more so than the physical effect. So I think that's important to understand. All right, guys, so do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you subscribe to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. And also, we have Black Movie Night coming up. So if you like Black movies, we got a Black director coming through by the name of Mark Harris. He made a movie called Stock Option. And Mark is very well known, very famous, and he's very, very good at what he does. So we're going to show the movie for free, and we're going to have a discussion with the director after the film is done. So if you like good Black movies by good Black directors and you want to support the development of a Black film industry, it won't cost you anything. You don't have to pay anything but your attention. So you can go to blackmovienight.net. That's blackmovienight.net. There's 2 movies on there. One is the movie Stock Option, which is free. The other one is the movie Happy, Happy. It's not free, but it took 5 years to make this movie. And I I think the director spent hundreds of thousands of dollars doing it. So I think it's only fair that we buy a ticket from him to support it so that he can make another movie. He did an excellent job. Taki Grant, that's his name. And he basically made a film showing how modern economic systems in America and around the world have their roots in ancient Africa. So he went to Africa, he went to West Africa, he went to Egypt, he went all Europe, he went to New York, he went to Chicago, and shot these amazing scenes that will really have you walking away feeling good. He also celebrated the elders. He had people like Dr. James Small and some others in there, and I was in there too, but I'm one of many, and it's just a really good movie. So feel free to go to blackmovienight.net if you want to check it out. Somebody said I look younger. Well, I appreciate it. That's because I lost weight, and I did also. I'm in the middle of a 6-month dental process because I didn't want my teeth to be all fucked up. So anyway, I'm out of here, guys. Have a good night. I'm gonna go upstairs with my girl and watch Star Trek. So talk to y'all later. Have be good, and please hit the thumbs up button on your way out. I appreciate you, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.